So, book culture is getting weird, and I don't mean reading culture, I mean book culture, because I genuinely think those two are becoming two completely separate things. I was reading an article in the Irish Times the other day, and it was about a company that takes your books and artificially ages them. They distress the covers, rough up the pages, make the edges look worn, crack the spine a little, basically make it look like it's lived a long and well loved life. And my first thought wasn't like, oh, how bad, this is outrage. My first thought was, why? Seriously. Because there are really easy ways of making a book look well read. You read it. That's literally what happens when you spend time with a book. It gets a little bent. Maybe you crack the spine accidentally. Maybe you spill coffee on it or something. Maybe the corners get knocked because you're carrying it in your backpack or bag for like 3 weeks. Books are supposed to live with us. They're supposed to age with us. They're supposed to collect, for want of something hippy dippy, memories. I've never understood the obsession with keeping every single book looking absolutely pristine, but equally, I don't understand paying someone to fake the signs you've actually enjoyed the novel. You're buying fake memories. You're buying artificial history. And honestly, the more I thought about it, the more I realised this wasn't about the company at all. It's about what book culture seems to be heading, where it seems to be heading. Because I think books have officially become a status symbol. Not the stories, not the books themselves, the object, the aesthetic, the image. And I think that's a really sad place to be. Because I've noticed something over the last few years. When people talk about books online now, a lot of the conversation isn't actually about what's inside the book. It's about how it looks on the shelf. It's about matching editions, sprayed edges. It's about color coordination. Whether your bookshelves look nice in the background of your videos, it's about the vibes, the aesthetic, the cozy reading corner. And don't get me wrong, I like a nice bookshelf, I like beautiful editions, and I appreciate good cover design. Hey, my background is art, so of course I appreciate those things. Books are beautiful objects, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with appreciating that. The problem is that it's all we're appreciating when the object becomes more important than the words inside. Because if we're honest, that seems to be what's happening. And then you can look at places like Etsy. You can literally pay people to annotate books for you. Color-coded tabs, highlighted passages, little notes in the margins, perfectly aesthetic, perfectly Instagrammable, perfectly curated. And I'm just there thinking, isn't that supposed to be your job? Isn't annotation a personal thing? Isn't the entire point of those notes are, are your conversation with the author? If you underline a sentence, it becomes something that connected with you. If I do, it connects with me. Maybe it reminded me of someone. Maybe it made me uncomfortable. Maybe I just thought it was beautifully written. Maybe I completely disagree with it. That's my relationship with books. Not yours. You can't outsource that. Well, apparently you can now. But I don't understand why you would. Some of some books I own, I don't annotate, I use notes because I don't like writing in books. But some books I own are annotated. My mother used to annotate her art history books. And scribbles, some of those scribbles make absolutely no sense anymore. I've opened books years later and found something underlined and genuinely thought, why is that underlined? What was going through that person's head who read it before me? What was going through my mother's? Sometimes there's a massive question mark in the margin. Sometimes there's a sarcastic comment. Sometimes someone's arguing with the author. Sometimes they're completely changing their mind since they've read it. My friend Emma and her Twilight books she left me are filled with her notes, her personal notes, her personal annotations. And they're a whole book into themselves. These books are little time capsules. They're a snapshot of who that person was when they first encountered it. My notes in books are the same thing. If someone else has done all the annotations, What exactly am I looking at? Some stranger's faults? Some stranger's emotional reaction? That's not reading. That's buying someone else's experience. I think influencer culture has this huge role in pushing us towards this because everything eventually becomes content. Everything becomes performative. Everything becomes aesthetic. And books haven't escaped that. They're just the latest thing to wear, like a personality trait. You know those get ready with me videos? Now we've got get ready to read with me videos. Except half the time, nobody's actually reading. It's 10 minutes of arranging stationery, picking the perfect notebook, lighting up the colored coded pens and sticky notes and tabs and highlighters and coffee and candles, a blanket and music and camera angles and lighting and slow motion coffee pours. Everything looks absolutely gorgeous. Then the book appears for about 5 seconds and the video's over. Now, before anyone gets defensive, I love stationery. I own notebooks. I've got more bookmarks than I probably need. I appreciate a nice reading space. I'm not saying people shouldn't enjoy those things. That's not the point. My point is, when did these things become the hobby? Because isn't reading isn't buying stationery, reading isn't collecting tabs, and reading isn't organizing your shelves, and reading isn't creating the perfect aesthetic. Reading is sitting down with a book and and engaging with someone else's ideas. That's it. Everything else is optional. Somewhere along the line, I think we actually started rewarding the appearance of reading more than actually reading itself. Looking well read, looking intellectual, looking literary, having the right editions, having the shelves that look immaculate and expensive, having annotations that look artistic, having books that perfectly match your room. None of those things tell me whether you actually read the damn book. They tell me you're good at creating an image. Those are not the same thing. And this isn't just happening to books. Look at vinyl records. Look at records. Look at film cameras. Look at typewriters. Look at fountain pens. Everything eventually gets turned into an aesthetic. Every hobby eventually gets commodified. Every interest becomes something companies can sell back to us. Books just happen to be next. And now even luxury fashion brands are selling selling handbags designed to look like hardback books. Again, novelty handbags aren't new. People have been making these book-shaped bags for years. You could buy one for next to nothing if you really wanted one. Now they're designer. Now they're aspirational. Now they're a luxury accessory. Again, it's the image of the book, not the book itself. And maybe I'm sounding pretentious. Maybe I'm sounding elitist. Maybe someone will say, just let people enjoy things. And I agree. People should enjoy things. People should collect beautiful editions. People should have gorgeous bookshelves. People should buy a sprayed edged book if it makes them happy. People should annotate if they want to. People should leave books completely untouched if that's how they read. None of that bothers me. What bothers me is when the performance replaces the substance. When looking like a reader becomes more important than actually reading, because that's different. It's massively different. I've been on BookTube for years now, long enough to remember when people used to criticize books by saying they were more interested in buying books than reading them. They used to criticize BookTube for that. And I always thought that criticism was unfair. A lot of booktubers who I know genuinely love reading, but I think we've drifted somewhere strange. We're no longer just collecting books, we're collecting identities, curating versions of ourselves, the mysterious reader, the dark academic reader, the cozy autumn girly reader, the intellectual, the literary person. And social media rewards that. Algorithms reward images. Algorithms reward aesthetics. Reward things that look good for 30 seconds. Reading doesn't work like that. Reading is slow, quiet, and personal. Reading is often boring for long stretches before something becomes incredible. None of that translates particularly well into a 15-second video, so instead we film coffee, the blanket, the tabs, bookshelf, lighting. All of those things are easy to package, easy to sell, easy to consume. But that's not the point. The point has always been the words. The point has always been opening a book and then allowing someone else's imagination, someone else's experience, someone else's ideas to change your own. That is the magic of reading. Cheesy, I know. Not whether you annotate, the annotations are aesthetically pleasing, or your shelves match, or whether your books look like they survived a century in Oxford Library. And honestly, there's something quite funny about paying someone to make your books look loved, because books already know how to do that. All they ask is you spend time with them. That's it. Read them, carry them around, drop them occasionally. Fold a page you absolutely hated. Write in the margins. Don't write in the margins. However you read, just read, because no company, no Etsy seller, no influencer, no algorithm can manufacture the one thing that actually gives books value: your relationship with them. That's the one thing that can't be bought, and I hope we don't lose sight of that. Because if reading simply becomes another luxury aesthetic, another status symbol, another carefully curated online identity, then we're reducing one of humanity's greatest inventions to little more than a fashion accessory. And that's a far less interesting story than the one waiting inside the book itself. I'm Darv James. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Like and sub and do the usual. And if you want early access and exclusive podcast and more, check out channel memberships and Patreon. I'll see you in the next one.